Welcome to Peter and Roughie's Football Show, the only daily football programme on STV Edinburgh and STV Glasgow, Monday to Friday. The main talking points tonight: Rangers manager Mark Warburton says new signings could be on the way, but he refused to be drawn on their third attempt to try and sign Hibernian midfielder Scott Allan. Aberdeen boss Derek McInnes has called on the fans to make it a full house for their Europa League tie against Kairat Almaty. And finally, Hamilton continue their search for a striker, and I'm delighted to say joining us here in the studio as our boot-room guest is Hamilton Accies PR and Media Officer David MacKinnon, of course a former teammate of Alan Ruff's at Partick Thistle. And of course, David wore the blue of Rangers with distinction as well. So that's our guest tonight in the programme. And I might as well start off, Roughie. I'm not going to kind of duck the issue. David and I communicated this week because basically I've tipped the Accies to go out of the Premier League. I have tipped them actually to go into the playoff place. With your side, Partick Thistle going
let's
down.
not mess about it here. You tipped them to go down. You just said that, go cheat.
No, we've already had that debate, you know. I've tipped them in a
opinion. Everybody's got an opinion, and I'm sure
Absolutely.
that'll be the motivation for Hamilton boys to make sure that they're not there.
Well, it's a strange one for me, you know, when we actually look at it, because I'm obviously seeing the players on a regular basis, know what we've made as far as signings concerned. I think we're actually in better shape than we were last season at the start of the season. So it did surprise me, Peter, but, you know, knowing the years I've known you, you're always liable to make a kind of faux pas.
There's a stonewall certainty that I have made mistakes. Probably people could chat them, but the thing about it is, I'm surprised, not surprised, but it's good from your point of view because you get a great insight into the observation of how the players are, and you think they're stronger. I mean, that's high praise indeed, Roughie, when you consider this is a Hamilton Accies side that defeated Celtic at Celtic Park when Alec Neil was the manager, and they went top of the league.
Yeah, but I think the thing about Hamilton Accies is the philosophy there, you know, bringing players through and moving them on, and I think that only encourages the players that are coming into the team to see where these other players have went. You know, and you know you're going to get a chance. You know if you're coming through the academy, you know if you're 17, you know if you're 18, you're going to get a chance, and that's a good thing at a club. That's
a relevant point, Ruffy, because you know, one of the things that the team does, it's set up all the way from 10s right up to the under 20s, the same way as the first team plays. So therefore, when a player comes through, if you take for example Greg Docherty, midfield player, hit the post on Saturday. Very unfortunate, but he knows exactly what to play. So there's no sort of learning curve for them. They're straight in and they know how the team operates. So it's a good philosophy, and it takes. Somebody said to me, as often happens, as one of the SPFL chairmen said to me, you know, we quite fancy going along that route. I said, well, 10 years from now you'll get there, because it takes 10 years in the making. Yeah. And that's it. But you know, it's good. It's a good setup, and I seriously believe that we'll finish quite comfortable this season.
Yeah. Well, listen, I absolutely hope you're right. I mean, I know so many of the lads there, and they'll have a wry smile on their face and probably make sure that you know, they mention it to us at the end of the season. One thing I would say, and it's just touching on that point. I mean, I bumped into Les, the chairman, on holiday. I was reading the book, Graham Hunter's book, which is a fabulous read, the making of the greatest team in the world, Barcelona, and he you know, he gives you a tremendous insight into their ethos, which I think, you know, Hamilton Accies have embraced. You know, players that know what they're doing, and they automatically can move through the age groups into the first team.
Yeah, and they obviously complement that with some players, some signings they've brought in. And Christian Nadi, who's lost 2.5 stone. He's a bit like Roughie in his prime. Wow, when he takes his shirt off.
So he's 13 stone 7 now. Wow, that's fantastic. That was the best weight he had, David. What was your fighting weight?
Well, actually, when I was playing at Thistle, I was 11 stone 10. Wow. And John Gregg said to me I was a stone too light. So I had to actually, you know, go to Twitter. First time anyone's told me to put on weight.
Is that right?
So that was good. So, but you know, it's just how you feel, isn't it? It's like Roughie, you know, he's perfect weight just now. So, and one thing is, you did tell me that television puts on 10 pounds.
Oh yeah, well, each camera can. I think we need to get rid of about 15 cameras in here, basically, on this programme. But I mean, it's great to see the two of you back together. That's an interesting thing you mentioned there. Of course, you've got to try and supplement the good youth that you've got coming through with the signings. You tried to get Chamorro, and what happened with him? Because he looked as if he could have been a good striker for you.
Yeah, he was good, and lovely guy, you know, and he came in, settled in with the players, liked him. We had clearance from his club. When we went then to register him, there was some issues with it. FIFA have got involved, so you know, rather it's going to be a long, complicated process to get it resolved. So unfortunately, we had to say, look, we have to move on. The season's starting, and he's left the club. But we've got some other players that we're looking at to bring in, because I think we're still looking for about 2 players. The big loss for us was Tony Andrew. So we think we've got a guy, Gramos Kurtaj from Germany, who looks a really good player. So we're hoping that he fits in, gets used to the way that we play, and I think that the team will be in a good spec for the game on Saturday against Ross County.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, just on that point, you've got players that you obviously like to bring in. Is it difficult to say to them to come in, not only because Hamilton Accies are very much a provincial club, but is it difficult to try and get to a market where financially you're restricted, and also the fact that Hamilton Accies have an artificial pitch?
Yeah. The artificial pitch doesn't really come into it, Peter, and we can maybe talk about it a wee bit more. But I think there's a reputation, not just throughout Europe, but through the world, because some of the emails we get in are from the world, from players and their agents. You know, Hamilton now are a team that players and agents think their player can come in and get a platform, because that is one of the things. You know, Hamilton, the board will never stand in the way of any player that develops, whether they've come through the academy or indeed they've come in as a signing. You know, so therefore we give them encouragement, give them a platform to play. You know, Celtic are well known throughout the world, and that's what the agent says is a chance for their player to be put in the shop window. So I think it works, and you know, it's not all about money. You know, it's about development.
Yeah, if you could bear that in mind, Roughie, it's not all about money, it's about development. You know what I mean? The other thing that I really wanted to get you on is the pitch, because I mean, we're actually going to get a chance to play in it against your backroom staff, the Scottish football writers, robbed of a victory the last time, may I add, but this
Was
time.
Roughie playing this time?
I mean, honestly, I'd love
a chance to play up front.
He's actually a good player up front. I think nowadays he's a better up front player than a keeper.
And a keeper, absolutely. Because the last thing we want to see, Roughie, at the football writers game is, you know, that look as Davy chips you.
I think I could quite easily be that stationary centre forward. Not a lot of mobility, you know, but you need to find me.
Yeah.
Not very much running.
To be fair, we can't have somebody with a lack of mobility in the midfield and you up front. It doesn't work.
The only bad thing about it is that you have to get in early, because there's a home and away strip, right? So you want the away strip, which is blue, solid. You don't want the hoops, because that kind of
we don't. By the way, I could hear the line coming out there, but I'm not going to go for it, Roughie. But anyway, we'll try and get the solid away strip. As far as the pitch is concerned, I mean, has it been relaid? Is this a better surface?
It was something that was planned a long time ago. I mean, the surface was actually, you know, I'm like everyone else. You know, I'm of an era where it's grass that you play on. And when I came, I thought, right, okay, let's see what it is. But you know, when you play on it as a player, you know, it works, and I think the one that's gone in is a step up from it. So you'll enjoy it next week. And you know, a ball player like yourself, you know, that's what it's key. So if you can play in that. It was interesting, you know, obviously I think one of the last games of the season there was some injuries. It was put down to, it was a pitch. Callum Higginbottom in particular at Partick Thistle was very critical, and he said that you know, he would never, ever sign with a club that plays on artificial surface. And as far as I know, did Carmarthen get their plastic pitch changed during the summer?
Listen, Davey, I'm so glad you've highlighted that, because you know, the last thing you want to do is make any kind of definitive statements like that, because they're always.
They'll come back to you, aren't you?
Absolutely. Listen, I'm absolutely delighted that you are with us here in the studio. We've got lots to talk about. Of course, we'll discuss on tomorrow night's programme the reaction from Celtic's match against Karabag and their desire to get into the knockout stages of the Champions League. Of course, still the playoff round to come. We're going to talk about Mark Warburton and his quest to try and land Scott Allen. It still hasn't happened, Roughie.
No, it hasn't. You know, another 60,000 added on to the last bid. I think that Hibs have made their point. you know, the boy's not going anywhere, and certainly going up in 40, 50,000s aren't going to change the situation.
Yeah, absolutely. If they keep going up in 50,000s, you just never know. As far as Scott Allen's concerned, we'll talk about that move by Rangers. There could be new signings on the way as well. We'll talk about Aberdeen, because if Celtic have a great desire to get to the group stages, then there's certainly group stages on offer for the Dons as well. Will it be a full house and a famous victory? We'll discuss that coming up after the break. Welcome back to Peter and Roughie's Football Show. Delighted that the former Rangers and Partick Thistle defender David MacKinnon is with us here in the studio. Of course, you guys were teammates. Any special memories, Davey, that spring to mind about Roughie and his...
Well, I'd been at Arsenal, Dundee, and I was transferred to Partick Thistle. And Roughie had been playing in the World Cup. And for some reason, he managed to persuade Bertie Auld that... you know, despite the fact Scotland went out early, he needed extra breaks. So he arrived in, and one of the first games was against Aberdeen, and I thought, I hadn't really spoken too much, and he turns up with this white suit on, but unfortunately decides to sit in the front seat, and Bobby Houston was wearing a black leather suit. And when we got up at Stonehaven to get the pre-match meal, Roughie had a black stripe down the side. And he was like, what's happening here? And Bobby says, oh, my wife thought it was looking a bit shabby, so she gave it some boot polish. And I thought, oh no. But I tell you, what a team, absolutely magnificent.
I mean, that's and I stand, you know, corrected by that. I didn't realise that. Had you started at Arsenal?
I was at Arsenal for 4 years, and then I played in a pre-season tournament against Dundee, and they put in a bid and took me to Dundee. And to be honest, I made a big mistake, you know. But you're 19, 20, and you think first team football. But actually, I remember it was a long time ago, 1976. Yeah. Shows you how old I am. And I was on £150 a week at Arsenal.
Wow. And
when I signed for Dundee, it was 50 quid a week. So.
Yeah. And then you made an even bigger mistake.
Well, actually,
a wee bit.
well, I was actually the second highest. I was going to say.
By the way, you're about to shatter his confidence here.
You remember, I was on 40 quid.
I was the second biggest transfer fee at the time. You know, some 18.5 grand.
And I was just about to say to you, I mean, you think about it, 1976. You stayed on, you could have been part of that Arsenal FA Cup winning side.
Absolutely. I speak regular to Frank Stapleton and Liam Brady. And, you know, Liam's the sort of youth academy at Arsenal now. And him and Frank, and they don't, basically what they've got is they've got about 20 or 30 properties in London that they bought at the time. So they just go around and collect the rent. I'd like that kind of job.
Oh, David, you...
But I wouldn't have met Big Roughie. That was the highlight of my career.
Absolutely. And to be fair, had he signed for Manchester City, I wouldn't have met him either, you know. So for every high there has to be a low.
the same, every defender that played in front of me, I stopped their career instantly. You know, they never went anywhere else.
well, I got a transfer to Rangers.
Well, I was going to say, my abiding memory of you is in a Rangers jersey with a headband. I think you cut your head in an Old Firm game.
Well, it was against Hearts in the League Cup. Yeah. And I made a slide tackle for once in my life, and I got a knee in the head and it split open, and went and got the stitches at the sideline, came out and played. Then we played Celtic on the Saturday.
That's right.
And I always remember the first minute the ball, Charlie Nicholas, the ball came up to him and he went like that, elbowed me and split the whole thing. Right, so I went down, the blood's pouring at me, and Brian McGinley came up to and booked me for play acting, believe it or not. I was like, what? So, welcome to the Old Firm, you know.
Yeah, absolutely. God, Charlie, elbow, sensation. Listen, I've got lots to ask you about the Accies. Of course, there's some stories that have emerged. Derek McInnes has got a big European tie. It's Kairat Almaty. It's 2-1. 18,000 Dons fans have purchased tickets. It's heading for a sellout, Roughie. It'd be great if they could not only get a full house, but a win. Yeah,
I think if you ask anybody, you know, Pataudry's one place that's, when it's full, there's an unbelievable atmosphere there, and it's fantastic the way things are going. I just read there, I think they've sold 10,000 season tickets as well, so the whole place is absolutely buzzing, and that's going to be a tight one as well. You know, they obviously drew the last game, they drew the last round up there, but you want two teams. You want teams, you know, to be in the competition a wee bit longer.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, here's hoping Aberdeen can get through, help the coefficient as well. We seem to be talking since the season started about Scott Allen. It's a relentless pursuit to try and get him, Davy. Basically, Hibs are digging in, and I think they're sending out a message to their fans that they don't need to sell him. Rangers have tried 3 times. Mark Warburton today saying he doesn't want to discuss it, but you can tell that they want him as a quality player. In effect, if they get him, David, your old club would really, it would be, I think, a fatal blow to Hibs' chances of getting that championship.
Well, you wonder how much, you know, I've looked at it and I think it's a lot of psychological battle, isn't it? You know, because of the circumstances, they're both vying for the championship, and I think if I was associated with Hibs, there's absolutely no price that the Rangers would pay that would actually get them to move. But I think Rangers now, you know, we're putting up 50,000 increments. I don't think that really has a great effect in it. So how much it's psychological, I don't know.
Yeah. The only person it's affecting is the player.
Absolutely, you're right.
You know, the player's head must be twirling. You know, if we were players, anybody was players, and that thing's happening to you. It's okay when you're in the stadium and you're with the players and at training, there'll be a bit of banter. You know, the players will be winding him up and, you know, having a wee bit of banter with him. But it's when he goes away from the training and he's left himself, obviously, he's going to get advice from parents, an agent, he's going to be listening to a lot of different people, and his head is going to be mixed up. So the sooner it's sorted out, the better.
Yeah, I mean, I think Hibs will dig in, Roughie.
I think they have to dig in. You know, Davy's already touched on it there now. He's the main man. He's the kind of guy that the Hibs supporters pay their money, pay their season ticket to come and see. He's an entertainer. He is the main man, and it sends out the wrong signal.
Yeah, absolutely. As far as the Premiership is concerned, we certainly have witnessed last season a lot of good games, David. How do you think it's shaping up this season? I mean, you're confident that the Accies can continue in the Premiership. First of all, Martin Canning, I've got a lot of time for Martin. Is it a vast change in the Alec Neil day to him, or is it just a case of Martin now needs to be given time to find his feet?
Well, I think the thing is that he's you know, got this famous thing that he's got the backing of all the players. They want him to do well. I was actually at a game, an under-20 game, and Alec used to come up and sit behind me, and I could hear what his instructions were. And Martin's is the exact same, so he thinks about the game the exact same way as Alec Neil. When you actually look at it, and there's not a lot of analysis in this last year, but he lost some key players from it, and he also lost Alec Neil, who was really influential in midfield. So I think that he's a really good manager. I think that the team's in good shape. So, you know, but it's important that you get a good start in this league, because I've said it many times, if you don't get a good start, you end up fighting in a dogfight. And I think 1 point on Saturday, should have had 3, there's absolutely no doubts about that. But it's, you know, games like going away to Ross County, we have to go and actually win up there. And I think if you're sitting in a reasonable points, you're okay at the start of the season.
Yeah, not only were you playing the game for a considerable amount of time, but you have worked in media and the broadcast as a respected pundit. How do you see the rest of the league? I mean, Derek McInnes is, you know, defiantly saying, you know, we can challenge. Is it a case of, you know, I mean, who do you see second, third, fourth?
Well, I think Aberdeen, Derek McInnes is a great manager. When I was at Dundee, you know, before we get Alec Ray in, you know, I'd spoken to Derek about it because he was just starting off, you know, trying to get. So I've got a lot of respect for him. He's a really decent guy. He's got them playing well. I think Aberdeen will be there or thereabouts. Celtic, I've looked at them, and you know, Celtic are slow starters, I believe. You know, and last season they didn't have a good start. I think still defensively they've got problems. Not, you know, so I'd be confident of teams going to Parkhead and taking some from, because Boyata, I saw the game on Saturday, and you know, he looked as if he was towing a caravan trying to get back on the halfway line, and I don't know whether that's just, you know, pre-season kicking in, but Celtic will win the league, I've got no doubts about that.
Yeah, and Hearts, a welcome addition. I've tipped them top 4.
Yeah, I don't see any problems with that. I think they've got a good squad. The support gives them an extra man on the park, I believe, and they look very good on Sunday. But defensively, they'll need to tighten up as well. So, you know, I think it's good. I think it's an exciting league. I think it's down the bottom where a lot of the action will be. Kilmarnock have not had a good start. I've got a lot of time for Kilmarnock and Gary Locke in particular. But, you know, when you get a bad start like that, it's very, very difficult to come back. And I think they've got, you know, 2 difficult games coming up, the next 2 games.
So, top half, is that fair? Is that the ambition of Martin?
Yeah, absolutely no doubts about it. You know, I actually got an email from a supporter in the other side of the world. Can you tell me how Hamilton had more points in Dundee and Dundee were 6th and Hamilton were 7th? I said, I'll give you the number of the SPFL and you can speak to Ian.
Listen, I'm sure you take that now. It's been an absolute delight chatting to you, David. Again, we wish Hamilton all the very best for the season. The great thing about this programme, Roughie, is we can change our mind dramatically as weeks go past. You know, once we get a real flavour of them, we can change our mind.
Yeah, well, I'm quite happy I had them at 6th.
Yeah, that's good. Listen, I might change mine before we actually go and play the Hamilton Accies backroom team next week, but nevertheless, great to have David MacKinnon on to talk all things Accies. It's a football show, that's what it's all about. Thanks for watching.